Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Iblis Manifestations Podcast. This channel features lengthy off-limits conversations with various different artists and entrepreneurs, predominantly from the underground metal scene. We take deep dives into the topics of life, music, spirituality, and take insight from a variety of thought-provoking perspectives from personalities who you don't often hear from in a mainstream settings. I am your host, Cheyenne, and I was originally born and raised in Iran and currently reside in the UK. I am the frontman and founding member of the black death metal band Trivex, who have been active since 2009. The band originally started in the Islamic Republic of Iran, where such type of music is banned as well as a punishable offense. You can check the band's pages for any updates on tour dates as well as new music. I am also a personal trainer and an online fitness coach who specializes in people achieving the best versions of themselves physically and mentally. Having been someone who was once extremely out of shape and overweight, I find it to be my duty to be able to pass on the information and knowledge which I've gained to help others achieve the same transformation. The Iblis Manifestations Podcast also features a variety of solo episodes where I discuss personal experiences and anecdotes in a very candid fashion, covering everything from mental health, spirituality, philosophy, and even paranormal experiences. This is the Iblis Manifestations Podcast. To support it, be sure to subscribe to the channel and visit the link in the descriptions.
It's great talking to you, Cheyenne, really. And best of luck to your endeavors for this podcast. I think it's a great initiative.
You're my favorite person to talk to for interviews and stuff. So I love what you're espousing out here. I love the knowledge and the perspectives that you're curating through this, and I'm just so honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
As I told you, it was one of the most interesting interviews I've ever had, because we talk a lot more things than just music, and I really appreciated that.
I respect you deeply, and it's an honor to be here.
And friends, remember as always, better to die on your feet than to live on your knees. Enjoy the podcast. Okay, Allan, my friend, welcome to Iblis Manifestations, man. It's a real pleasure to have you on. I appreciate you haven't done many of these before, so It's an honor to have you on the show, man. How you doing?
It's an honor and pleasure to be here. I'm very excited about it. I'm very, very excited. Yeah, first podcast, so
amazing.
So on this one, and happy to see what you want to talk to me about.
For sure. I mean, there's lots of different things that we can kind of unpack here. You and I, we recently, where was it? Was that in Sweden? Oh yeah, it was in Sweden right after the Dalhalla show with Watain.
The Watain Dalhalla show.
That's right. How fucking cool was that show, man? That was insane.
I mean, wow. I mean, it was this third Watain show that I saw and shot in a month. And it was just, what an end to a body of shooting Watain concerts. It was such an honor to be there, and what a setting. And I mean, yeah, crazy experience.
Yeah, I thought it's one of those things. I've seen them many times, and it was just something about the setting that just made it really special. And I don't know, man, I've never been to a venue like that before. I don't think there's many venues like it. I know there's that. What's it? It's like the Red Rocks place over in the States that you kind of hear about, but there's not many places like that. And then to have a black metal band of especially their caliber playing there, that was pretty fucking sweet. Yeah,
it was amazing. Just being surrounded by rocks, and like to those who don't know, it's in an old quarry, so it was just surrounded by rocks and forest. It was a magical night for sure.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I saw you running around like a crazy person trying to capture some pictures whilst you were there.
Yeah, I mean, I went and we met when I was running there because I was on my way there and I got a text. Hey, can you be here? When are you here? We need to take a group photo. I'm like, oh, fuck, what? And then it took forever to get through, and I was just like running, and I saw you. I'm like, I wanted to hug you and say hi. I'm like, no, I have to be in the backstage in 2 seconds. And I just had to run to get there. But yeah, it was good to see you, and I was happy that we got to hang out in the airport at least after.
Yeah, that's right. We spent we had our own kind of podcast episode at the airport afterwards, and then it was after that I was like, dude, you have to fucking come on the podcast, and especially when I found out you never done one of these before, I was like, holy shit, I want to know this guy's story. So, we kind of talked about a few things there, but there was one thing that you said that really kind of piqued my interest, and because everyone's obviously, I think everyone watching this has probably seen your story and your Instagram. You're very well known as a tattoo artist, very well known as a photographer, and I know that you also even do like a boudoir style of photo shoots and things like that as well. Yeah. And all of that is fantastic. But I'm really curious to know about your background because you did mention something, and correct me if I'm recalling this wrong, but you mentioned something to the effect of like you basically had to move away when you were quite young, and I think in fact maybe even a similar age that I was when I first left Iran. I think you were kind of like
nothing that dramatic, dramatic. I am of that generation where you grow up in a little shithole of a town and you are the town freak, and there's nothing to relate to. And so, yeah, as soon as I could, I did move away because there was nothing for me there. There was the only persons other than me that was listening to anything remotely hard would be somebody who was like into the Black Album with Metallica, and they consider themselves like, yeah, this is fucking brutal. So no, there wasn't any. It was, but it wasn't dramatic. It was just like, I do not belong here. And I've had that since I was a very young kid. I was like, this is, I didn't belong there. I don't know how. Ever since I was very young, I've been into metal, like straight into it. Always been a metal kid. Always been fascinated by tattoos, which came from the metal music. So yeah, just that and nobody else around. And I'm so old, so this is before the internet. So nowadays you can just connect with people and find like-minded people and talk to. But there was nothing. There was jocks and people fixing their mopeds, and and I just wanted to have long hair and earrings and obviously too young tattoos. But yeah, so as soon as I could, I was like, see ya.
So where were you born and raised then?
I'm born and raised I am Danish, so I was born and raised in a very small town called Fuglebjerg, which is between other two small cities called Slagelse and Næstved, and it's very, very small. You drive through. No, you don't even drive through it. You drive past it on the way between the cities. So, but I also believe in everything happens for a reason, and it's fine, and it like it can relate to, I guess it makes who you are later on. So
yeah. No, it's funny you say that because
sit and talk about like, boo. I was like talking to somebody like you. I think you had it slightly worse than I had.
No, but I think it's not like I don't look at it as competition. I actually feel very privileged about my background and where I came from because it gave me an opportunity to see things in a different way. Because
that's exactly what I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because without these things, you don't think about certain things. If you just live in a perfectly normal setting, you don't get thrown into a situation where you actually have to consider things and make up your own mind about things, and those are the situations that might mold you into who we are now.
Absolutely. So how old were you? Was it Berlin that you moved to then?
Oh no, Berlin is 12 years ago. I moved away from the shithole as soon as I was like old enough to leave. My parents have always been very supportive and loving, so there's no issues there either. So there wasn't any real reason to leave. But as soon as I'm like, okay, I'm 18, I'm peacing out. See you later. And then I got an apprenticeship as a tattoo artist. Very luckily, like I don't know how that happened, but it did. And so I moved to Copenhagen, where that tattoo shop was. It was kind of one of those things that I got the apprenticeship. He asked, like, he saw my work and he's like, "Do you want to be a tattooer?" And I'm like, only since I was like yay high, but so yeah, thank you. And then he said, "Well, whenever you move to Copenhagen, contact me and we get you set up." And then the next day I was just like, I called him up. I'm like, "You know what? I can't wait for this. Let's just do it. I'll travel 2 hours each way let's just do this. We can't wait for this. This has to happen." So, but then eventually, as soon as I could, I moved to Copenhagen. Yeah.
Amazing. And you were 18 years old.
Yeah, 18. I moved away from home at 18. And then this was 18, 19 years old.
Sure. And is that what you have pretty much done ever since?
Yeah, I did my first tattoo in 99. So, yeah.
That's cool, man.
I did this thing for a while, and then I did my first tattoo in 99.
Yeah. And what was it that drew you to tattooing?
It looked fucking cool.
Right, of course. That makes sense.
To be completely honest, like if it wasn't for fucking Guns N' Roses, I probably wouldn't be who I am today. You know, I saw Guns N' Roses. I had the first music I bought myself was Iron Maiden Killers on cassette. Again, I'm a dinosaur, so this is back before cassette were cool again, like the first wave of cassette tapes. You know, but I got Appetite for Destruction, and they were fucking cool, man. They had tattoos, shitty tattoos now than when you know it, but back then, fuck that tattoos, they looked so cool. I remember even like back when I was like not even really a teenager, like about being a teenager, and I would get these shitty ass cowboy boots, and I was having like a bandana hanging from my back pocket, like Slash, and my grandma was like, "Why do you have this rag hanging?" Like, "Just because it's fucking cool, grandma." You know.
Yeah.
But,
it's funny, man.
Now it's funny, right? Because this has been when I was like 13 years old or whatever, and now I'm 46 and I'm still dressing in fucking cowboy boots and metal shirts and denim vest with all my patches on. Still have long hair. Again, I went away and now I'm back to looking like when I was a teenager.
Man, that's crazy.
I grow up. I can't grow up. It's too late.
Yeah. No, well, that's good, man. You know, I like that because, you know, you're doing things on your own terms. You know, I commend that approach to life in general. You know, what's funny is that you're saying that the bandana thing. I used to do exactly the same thing. You know,
I still don't know what it's for.
Yeah. I think it's for because I know Hetfield now and then would wear it. I think it's to just wipe your hands when you're playing guitar or something. Maybe
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe, you know. I think even that is an excuse just because it looks cool, you know.
It's fucking cool.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, you know, and I think that's good. You know, the way you know what I was saying earlier when I said that I feel privileged. I think so many people, tragically, so many fucking people get to be alive on this earth and live a life, and they'll never get to know what that feels like to live their own life and carve their own path, even if it sucks at some points. You know, there's a degree of, you know, just being present and just being in charge of your own journal, if you will, that I don't think a lot of people get to experience, you know.
And and that shows in some people's personality or lack thereof. Never had to build a character or personality. They're happy with the mold that they've been put into, and they're happy with whatever they have been told by parents, society, whatever. This is who you are, and this is what you're supposed to do. And so, you know, I have the same problem when you ask people, like, what do you listen to? What kind of music do you listen to? And if they say, you know, I don't really care, I just listen to radio, I'm like,
yeah, red flag.
Yeah, red flag. Like, it's like, if you don't have an opinion, if you don't have, like, this is cultural shit. It's the same if you come back into somebody's house. Where's your books? Where's your DVD collection? Where's your music? It freaks me out. Like, you don't have culture in your life. It freaks me out. If you're just content with being like, yeah, maybe if I want to listen, I put on radio. I don't know. Like, no. I think
Yeah.
these cultural things, they are shaping us and giving us personalities, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it all, I think, comes down to a sense of identity.
Identity,
You know?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of how we form even opinions of ourselves comes back down to how we react to things from the rest of the world. This is something that I realize, this is why everyone thinks that their opinion matters, because through their opinion, they're also searching their own sense of personal identity as well. If you think about it that way, that's why everything in today's world, that's why reality TV is popular. That's why people think that their way of engaging and interacting with the world is always reacting to other things. This is why reaction videos are popular, as fucking dumb as they are, because it comes down to that sense of identity. We identify ourselves based on how we react to things around us.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and we can try to not be guilty of the same thing, but we all are, and that's fine. Just embrace it, and then But what you do with that after that, that's what counts,
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, growing up in Iran, reacting as rebelliously as possible towards Islam and the authorities and the establishment, that was how I found my personality back then,
That's a good way to fucking find it.
It was, we definitely did some very dangerous shit back then, which I don't talk about as openly now, but I'm still kind of proud of it, like it was dumb, but I'm also kind of proud of it, because I'm like, yeah, it's free speech at the end of the day, and just because it's, we talk about free speech, and I know you and I have talked about this before in person, it's something that's just not a fucking given. So you're going to have to fight for it. And if it means sometimes taking risks for it, fucking go ahead, and then people try too hard to protect certain things around it. And it's like, no, if you just like let it loose, it'll sort itself out eventually. The more you try and control it, the more it'll rebel and get more extreme, if you catch my drift.
But, I mean, it is for some it might seem like small things, but I mean the fact that you did this, I mean, for me it's a ginormous step in fighting this oppression that religion is, and for me that's fucking admirable that you as a fucking teenager stood up against this kind of shit, and that's like, if everybody just do a little bit, then maybe one day we can maybe get rid of stupidity like this that enslaves so many people.
Yeah, well, I think the problem with it is also weaponization as well, so and that doesn't always come just from above, but I think it's something that happens communally as well. Human beings, they just want to have a kind of a power structure that they adhere to, even though they want power themselves. They find a sense of comfort in succumbing to that sort of, I guess, authoritarian thing, as much as they hate to admit to it. And I think that that's kind of where religion always goes wrong, is because it sort of grants for those things. It's designed inherently to control people. Now, I think that on an individual basis, you can see that each one of them may have positive points, and I actually think they definitely have positive points if it's just for the one individual. And if you're only going to if you're only going to make your own conclusions out of it, but the moment you live by it like it's a manual, that it's the only way to live life, then you fucked up. Then you entered a cult, and then you're going to cause damage, not to yourself, not just to yourself, but to everyone around you.
But we've seen it happen so many times, even with new cults / religions that seem like they're starting off at a good point and with good intentions, but eventually the fucking guru will turn fucking batshit crazy and be like murderers or rapists or whatever, and power hungry. We're just not built for it as humans to have that kind of following, I guess, or whatever. But also, like we talked about it. Everybody who knows me a little bit knows that I'm very much against any religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think, and I don't think that people need...
I wouldn't have been able to tell that looking at the background behind you. I thought you were a very good Christian man. That's great.
Yeah,
for anyone watching the video, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, no, that's great, man. But I think that's awesome. I think we should be able to rebel against these kind of preconceived notions and things. Now you can then go and make your own sort of conclusions out of it, and you can become your own person and find your own values. But But when something is like shoved down your throat, it's like, well, hang on a minute. Let me think about this for myself. Then I'll tell you if I think it's good or bad. You know what I mean? But they don't like that thinking part because it creates doubt, and doubt's a sin.
Again, sin being one of their strongest weapons against free will and thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fear and the threats that they thrive on. And that's one of my main problems with almost any religion, almost.
Sure.
But I find that religion is fine as long as you're not hurting other people with these beliefs. But unfortunately, in small scales or big scales or whatever, it usually just ends up hurting someone. And I don't think we need religion. I think religion is fascinating, but it belongs in the past for me. Like, we know more now. Believing in energies for me is like, people could say that is a religion. I don't necessarily think so, but believing in these gods to the letter, for me, that's just stupidity. You cannot be serious if you believe these things to the letter. Like, are you kidding me? That's a mental illness. So I believe it's fine that you believe in this or that, like magic, you believe in some energy, that's fine. But when you start believing that a guy came and separated the waters, or another guy flew to heaven on a winged horse, I mean, come on. For real? If you use it as a guideline or a fairy tale, sure, nobody's harmed by that. And if you choose to believe that there is a divine energy or something that look over us, that's also fine. But if you start judging other people or threatening other people for not believing in the same fucking fairy tale as you do, then we have a problem.
That is a problem. I agree.
Lives or risk other people's lives because of your belief, well, then we also have a problem. If you start being like, we should have a law for everybody in this country based on my fucking beliefs, we have a big fucking problem. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm like, religion is shit. I mean, for me, you see all my upside down crosses, we all play around with fucking satanic symbols and this and that. And yeah, Satanism might be the closest that would fit what I believe in personally, but it still wouldn't be part of a satanic temple or Church of Satan or whatever, because for me, it's still kind of a religious club, and I can't do it.
Sure, so to begin with was more of like a
sorry.
Yeah, and the Satanic Temple thing, and the Church of Satan was more of like a kind of like a atheistic kind of club philosophy thing around it anyway. But I think that also the problem around, like what you're saying about, like, for example, flying to the sky on a winged horse and things like that. I think the problem is that we don't know the entire history. So people have, there may be phenomena and events that have happened throughout history, but the way the information's been passed down is very skewed. And especially when you consider the limited technologies of the past, now you can then maybe start talking about if that winged horse might have been an ancient UFO, then that's a different story. We can get into that conversation. But
that would be interesting. But still, but then again, that's great point. I love ancient aliens. I eat that shit up. I'm like, that's fascinating. But that's exactly it. Well, this is ancient text, and maybe they need to be updated. And these people are not willing to have that conversation. They still believe, no, I believe that this fucking guy rode on a winged horse to heaven. I'm like, no, he did not. He could not. There is no winged horse. And there hasn't been ever since. Nobody has talked to a burning bush. Nobody has separated the water. Nobody has brought people back from. Are you insane? You know, like, if anyone else said anything like this about anyone today, my neighbor just, you know what he did? He turned water into wine, and then he flew to heaven on a winged horse. People were like, this guy needs to be put into a straitjacket.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's lots of things like that. And, you know, I think that it's important to be open-minded, but what's more important is to question everything, you know, and this is very important. I think you ought to question not just religion, but you ought to question the news. You ought to question, I don't know, just general rules and laws and things like that. And that doesn't mean to then go breaking them and shitting all over them just for the sake of it either. I think a lot of people kind of struggle with having freedom in that sense because they don't know how to handle it because they don't have discipline, okay? And
that's my point. I'm not against people believing in something, and I'm against religion because I think it's unnecessary. We don't need it. But if I became a dictator tomorrow, I wouldn't be like, no more religion, but I would strongly suggest it. You know,
sure, absolutely.
I think we can't forbid people because that's ridiculous. It would be the same as saying I can't listen to my music anymore. If you want to believe, that's fine. I don't mind that. I don't have a problem with it. But all I'm saying is like be rational about it. Be smart about it. Don't be like I said, like if you update those textures, then maybe I wouldn't be like, okay, maybe you're not as insane as I thought you were, you know?
Yeah.
You can believe in shit. I don't mind it, but it's when people are like, no, this is true. I'm like, are you sure? These are very old scriptures. It makes no sense. No, this is what happened. I'm like, okay, well then you're insane. But if you use it as like, this is a fairy tale and I base my religion on, and like, fine, I can't argue with that. That's fine. I think Lord of the Rings and Star Wars cool stories too, but I'm not going to be a Jedi, you know?
Okay,
although I think that, you know, there's more truth in the Force than there is in a lot of these actual religions.
Well, I believe in the Force. That's for sure. I do believe in the Force.
That's what I mean. I think there's more reality to that at least because I do believe that things are connected with energies and shit. I can't.
Yeah.
You know,
100%. You know, and it's funny you say that because it reminded me. I remember learning about this hadith in school, you know, which is like, you know, in Islam, they have like these like little bits of information that's not like a direct verse as such, but these are kind of like stories or like orders and statements that have been passed down, you know, and there was one talking about, I can't tell if it was Muhammad or if it was one of his Shiite descendants, but they were saying that if you don't wash your hands, Satan will gather under your nails. And that's basically just bacteria, you know, so they had a point, but, you know, is Satan bacteria now? You know, it's kind of like, it's interesting, you know, when you see how that sort of, that description is kind of like twisted and contorted just due to lack of, well, I guess fucking microscopes back then, you know. So I think there's those kind of things that you can sort of try to connect the dots. But then there's also some of it where I also think that we ought to look into a bit more rather than being completely dismissive, you know, which then, you know, these are things that kind of reveal themselves maybe more in heavily meditated states or like under psychedelics and things like that, you know, like for example, you mentioned the burning bush. I know this is going to sound like a fucking Joe Rogan Experience episode, but you know, there's the theory that was basically an acacia tree, and then that was releasing DMT. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I brought up the burning bush, because we actually talked about it. And I do believe that a lot of stories come from people eating nature shit and getting high. It makes a lot of sense, but that's just another point of saying like your stories are fucking whack. They were as a kite, and that would make so much more sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think there is a lot of proof of that.
Have you done DMT before?
No, I can't do drugs.
Oh, so you never do drugs? I think you've told me this already. There was like something in particular that you just put them aside?
When I was a kid, when I was younger, I smoked weed and hash, and I just either got paranoid or felt sick in my stomach. So at the end, I was just like, this is clearly not for me. I just had too many people fucking up their careers and life with cocaine. So for me, it was also like, well, since I haven't tried it ever, why risk it? I mean, it seems like a fun thing to do and people enjoy it very much. So if I like it, if I try it and I like it, then maybe I'll keep doing it. So I was just like, man, maybe this is not for me. And when it comes to these psychedelics, I believe in it and I believe that it has healing powers and I can see the good in it. But I also know my own brain and my imagination, and I am very much afraid of where it would take me if I expand that even further. So yeah,
sure, okay.
I'm all about it, but not for my brain is too crazy.
That's absolutely fair enough, man. And I guess when you look at what you have done with tattoos and arts and things like that, I think it kind of makes sense because I usually find that the creation of art, at least for me personally, just making music alone is almost it is kind of an exercise of the demons, and not kind of, it's definitely an exercise of those really aggressive, hungry demons, and I have a feeling if I didn't have that outlet, I wouldn't be able to have as much capacity for love and compassion in my life at the same time. It's a funny thing. Of course, just very quickly touching on the drug thing again, if you do at any point in your life, you know that I'm sober, but I do the yearly psychedelic thing. So if at any point you change your mind, we can go meet God together. I'll introduce you guys, and I think
God doesn't exist.
And I think, yeah, maybe it's just a version of yourself that you meet and you communicate to. Who knows? But just coming back to it, I think there is something very important about art alone. It's almost, like approaching it and then doing it from a place of need rather than just a want for like a hobby. Do you ever think of it like that?
Yeah, every day.
Sure.
But mostly because it was never a choice. I've always been creative in many ways, and my mom used to tell me that when I was in, I guess it's kindergarten, when you was almost like a baby, kindergarten, whatever. I was just doodling whatever scribbles as small kids do, and the other kid next to me told me like, I can't see what you're drawing. I don't know what it is. You're just making a mess. And then almost like I was like, oh yeah, I'll show you. And then I started drawing stuff that you could actually see what it was supposed to be, I guess. And so it's always like, I always had that, oh yeah, I'll show you.
Right.
Attitude.
That's
but
cool.
also like I've been creative my entire life, and my family has been creative. When I was a kid, I started playing drums on everything, and so that was like in my blood from a very young age. Unfortunately, it was never something that I could pursue because of money and lack of space for a drum kit. So I dabbled a bit in it later on in my later teens, but never really had time to pursue it. But drawing has always been with me my entire life and led me to where I am today. And at some point, creative outlet was just like, I need something that has nothing at all to do with tattooing, and photography was that thing. And even that started just as a little, this is fun. And then now it's a full-blown passion that is taking up all my money and most of my time.
I mean, your photography skills are absolutely sensational, man. I don't know if people who are listening to this have seen it online, but you actually took some photos of Trivex, some promo ones, but then also some of us on stage. And those are like literally some of the best fucking live photos we've had this year, if not the best. I think there's, yeah, absolutely. And I mean that, man. You have a very, very good way of capturing stuff, and you see also how well a lot of bands respond to it as well. I think there's a select few really good photographers in this scene and in this genre at the moment, and just off the top of my head, obviously it's yourself, it's my friend Christopher who does Necros Horns, and it's the gentleman who does Void Revelations as well. I don't know him personally. I don't think we've even met, but I know he messaged us once before. I don't actually know what he looks like. Yeah, but and he took
Very
some
good company.
great. Yeah, okay, amazing. No, and I mean that, man. And obviously, everyone's got a style of their own, and I think it's really cool. So again, circling back to my original point when I was saying how we identify ourselves with our reactions to the world. What I really like about photography in general is the fact that you get to see the world through the scope and the lens literally of the person who's taking them. So it's almost like each photo is an extension of the personality of the person taking them, not just the subjects. Does that make sense?
Oh, very much. Very much. It's been, and I don't know how to explain it, but I hope it makes sense in the context of your question. But that is, it's kind of my process of both obviously taking the photo, but also the edit of my photos. Because sometimes in the beginning, when I started taking photos, I was very much against editing anything. It was
cool.
Like, I take the photo and that's how it's supposed to be. Kind of like the analog, because that's also what I started like shooting on film. And I was like, no, I don't want to over edit. And that's fine. And at some point I was like, yeah, but how it comes out on my camera is actually not how I saw it. So what I'm doing now is I'm editing in terms of how I perceive the concert, what I feel when I see a concert, and when I shoot it, I'm trying to portray how it feels for me, how it looks and how it sounds in my head when I look at it, and it maybe the colors or whatever looks completely off of what it did that night, but that's how I see it. This is the mood. This is what I see. And it's also like why I have a hard time shooting certain concerts, because if I can't show in my photo what they're playing, then I feel both that I failed, but also like, what's the point? I'm here to document what's in front of me. And if you look at my photo and you can't see if it's a fucking jazz band or if it's a black metal band or if it's a R&B band, then obviously I failed, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I always try to take a photo and hope that people who look at the photo, they will experience the mood, or at least they'll be like, oh my God, this looks like it was a cool concert. Like, the biggest compliment I get is when like, oh man, you captured that concert. I was there and you really captured it well. I'm like, yes.
Well, that's what I felt. That's exactly what I felt when I looked at some of the shots of us that you took in Berlin. I was like, oh yeah, shit. That's basically how I was feeling at that moment right there in the picture. I know it's kind of what we're talking about actually is a little bit more abstract than I think we're even giving it credit. Like we're kind of explaining it, but it's actually a very kind of it's an obscure thing to sort of I don't know, just even put into words super precisely, but like you kind of get it, like what that is. And that's how I felt when I looked at my picture, with like, fucking, screaming covered in blood and fucking guitar midair, just like out for fucking revenge and violence and murder and fucking rebellion and just being free, and also passion and lust and all these things just all combined into one, which is, for me, it's the Trivex experience. I hope other people get to take away a similar thing from it. And I think you captured that perfectly. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Happy to do it anytime, man.
No, I would definitely love to do more stuff with you in the future. Just kind of circling back as well. So we've kind of covered everything, and obviously you mentioned about the move that you made when you were 18 and then you left and whatnot. What kind of advice would you give your younger self who's about to embark on a journey to Copenhagen to kind of start this new tattoo life, if you will?
Well, that's not, I think I nailed it. Not to be like,
yeah.
But I mean, look at me. I'm fucking 46-year-old and I'm living my fucking life.
I love hearing that. Fuck yeah.
I had two childhood dreams. Childhood dreams. Tattoo artist, owning a Harley Davidson. I did both.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, I don't know what advice to do because apparently I made it. If you could, it's the time machine problem, right? If you go back and you change just a little thing, then maybe I wouldn't sit here.
Well, let's maybe, and I absolutely appreciate that. I think that's fucking awesome. I really feel overjoyed to hear stuff like that, you know. And I can see that you're passionate and you enjoy doing what you're doing. So how I would maybe then approach the question is, what advice would you give someone who's in the same position that you were at that time?
Yeah. No, I also realized that I went on a little sidetrack. I'm counting the times.
That's fine, you know, because obviously that's good that, you know, so you've got there. So what would you say to someone just as a general life lesson? It's like, hey, you know, like stick to your guns, do this or that. What would you say to, let's say, someone at 18 years old who has got dreams and passions and whatnot, but hasn't pursued them yet or doesn't know how to, or not even 18 years old, could be someone in their 40s now, but they've always had a dream and they never pursued. So how would you kind of break that down for someone like that?
Well, one of the first thing, and it actually goes back to your original question from a little bit earlier about the drawing part and stuff, is like, I think fucking being passionate about it and stick to it and work for it. And again, now I'm sidetracking my own brain, but yeah, sticking to it. And if you want something, then stick to it and really be persistent about it and keep going at it. And even when people say, no, you can't do that, well, then push harder. Because that's basically what happened in the little shithole town. Like, people would always be like, you can't do that. I'm like, why not? I'm going to show you. Of course I can. And it's one of the fun things about what I realized about being a tattoo artist, that now people are becoming tattoo artists because it's cool. When I started and when I wanted to be a tattoo artist, it wasn't cool. And whenever you told people like, yeah, I'm a fucking tattoo apprentice, people were like, why? Because it wasn't a cool thing back then. You didn't have rock star tattoo artist. It wasn't a cool career. So people were like, why do you want to be a tattoo artist? That's fucking weird. That's only
criminals.
Criminals. I'm like, that's fucking cool. I want to do this more than anything in the world. So that's what I did. I pursued it. I kept drawing and I drew shit. And that's how I accidentally got my apprenticeship. But honestly, I didn't think that I could become a tattoo artist because it was so insane and nobody... Nowadays, you just walk in and be like, I want to be a tattooer. And then somebody like, okay, you're an apprentice. You know, people don't care about it anymore. People are just like, yeah, this sounds like a cool thing. I'm bored with this, so now I'm just going to be a tattoo artist. You don't need to be dedicated anymore. And I see it way too much that people are just doing it because, well, I got nothing better to do. And I'm like, that's the exact opposite of me. I'm like, I wanted this more than anything in my fucking life. I wanted to draw on people drawings that will stay forever, you know? And so I kept at it, and even my teacher were doing the old school apprenticeship thing, you know, knocking me down, calling me names, making me do stupid shit. And every day I was just like, I don't care. I want this more than anything. You can call me all the stupid names. You can get me to do all the stupid jobs. I'm sticking with this. I'm not letting this chance go. You gave me a chance. I'm going to fucking stick to it.
I absolutely fucking love that, man. That's beautiful. That's the kind of thing that speaks to my soul, you know. And is part of it is because, you know, that's just what I've always liked and admired in other people. Part of it is because it's what I've also been through myself, you know. I remember,
again, in a way bigger scale than my stupid little story.
No. I think, you know, we're all on our own personal thing, you know, and you know, and ultimately the decision is the same, you know. Then what you go through in the process is your own personal journey that you were perhaps meant to go through, you know. But you made the decision, and in that sense, you know, there's it's its own thing, you know. We're all going through our own version of the simulation. But for me, it brings me back to this very specific moment when I think I was 16 years old, and this was within a year of me leaving Iran, but at that point I had no plans or ideas that would even be possible yet. And I remember I kind of left this kind of high school that I was going to in a bit of a huff and puff, and like it was just like a really miserable time. I completely fell out with the place, and they were all like, "Oh yeah, it's this fucking crazy kid who doesn't listen." Like I literally had the worst grades out of I think everyone in my year, not my class, but in my year. And that was just because I was just too obsessed with black metal and death metal. And I would go to math classes, and instead of writing, whatever the teacher was saying, I would start tabbing out riffs on all of my notebooks. I was just like, you probably did sketches or something like that. I don't know. Absolutely. But yeah. and for me, there was this one very specific moment. I put myself in danger by fucking saying that as well. But we were in this class, and it was the Quran class in this new high school that I went to. And the new high school I went to, they were like fucking full on Islamic. You had to wear white shirts, and I hated wearing white at that time as well, And you've got a kid who's listening to fucking Behexen and Satanic Warmaster on one hand, and then on the other hand, he's forced to be inside an Islamic fucking school, and maybe I was even a little spoiled. That's why I was struggling to adapt so much. I don't know, but why or maybe I just couldn't fucking accept bullshit as a condition, and yeah, they used to make you like wear these like plain white shirts, and you had to like button up all the way to the collars here, so you look like a fucking full-on fucking Hezbollah member or some bullshit, that I fucking hated. And you were like attending prayers was like compulsory and all these kind of fucking things. And one day in classroom, I always sat in the back in the corners of classes. I always did, like pretty much for my entire childhood and teenagehood and young adulthood, always at the back of the class in the corner, just eyeing everyone else up and just kind of detached from everyone at the same time. Yeah. And then this teacher, he's like just kind of fucking, he's fed up of my attitude towards Islam and everything. And you have to understand how dangerous this was, this moment alone, where he turned around in frustration and he said to me, "Are you a Muslim or not?" And I was stood up in front of the whole class, like maybe 30 other kids, right? All guys, obviously, because they separate boys and girls after age 6, because they're fucking perverted and retarded. And then I said to this, he was like, "Are you a Muslim or not?" And I said to him, "On my birth certificate, I am." and then he diplomatic answer. He let out this massive sigh. He was like, "Okay, I think we're gonna have a problem," kind of thing. And he was like, "I'm gonna revisit this." Yeah. And I left that school within like, I think it was that week. Yeah, I had to leave. I was like, this is, I'm about to turn these guys into fucking jihadi johns against myself, like I'm fucking, or I'm going to do it to them, because I was like, I had so much hatred for that religion at that time, still kind of do now and then, something I'll see something online that'll just kind of bring it back. I was like, I don't like you guys that much, but but more than you guys is more the religion itself, just because I see how it ruined my country and, And yeah, those kind of moments, where I had to like basically like confess my standpoint and not lie to a group of 30 people in a situation that actually put me in danger. That's the kind of shit that builds your fucking character. By the way, this is the first time I've talked about this story on publicly ever, but that was a very, I think, defining moment for me, because I was kind of like, okay, you know what? I don't care how fucking pear-shaped it goes. I'm gonna stick to my gun, and I'm just gonna speak the truth. And the older that I get, I realize, oh yeah, the more you speak the truth, the more powerful you'll become. So here we fucking go.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're absolutely right. It's those, again, your step is bigger than mine, but it is those small moments where you realize these things, like, this is not what I want to do. This is not who I am. And again, my stories is not the same at all. But and again, a lot of people think that because of my the way I feel about religions and stuff, that I had some weird upbringing with wrong religion and whatever. And actually, no, my mom is Catholic, and I grew up in a Catholic church. I was an altar boy, and it was all fine and dandy, and everything was good, and everybody was nice. It was very unusual Catholic church. There were people who were openly gay, and everybody with different colors and cultures were welcome. It was very fun and welcoming. And I was like, oh, this is fun. This is a good time. Until you realize at a certain age, I'm like, yeah, this is fun, but I don't believe this. I'm just here for the good times after church, you know. And actually, a lot of my brutal music came from another altar boy from a different town, and he would give me cassette tapes with Obituary and Bow Thrower and shit like that. So actually, my first interaction with more like harder metal was through the Catholic Church. But you know, right. I don't have a bad experience with the church. That's not why I'm against religion today. Quite the opposite. Great experience. But at some point, my brain just told me, like, why am I here? I mean, just here for the good times, actually. People were nice. People were good. You know, everybody was friendly. You know, there was one of the other guys who were into horror movies, so we would exchange horror movies, you know. But I'm like, but I don't believe in what we're doing. I'm like, and I kind of knew that from the beginning. I'm like, but it was just like, you know, it's cool. Catholic Church is cool. You know, there's rituals and, you know, candles and fucking incense. You know, it's awesome, you know. I have a lot of, I still have a lot of religious things turning the other way around all over my house. I love the looks of it, but I just realized, well, I don't believe in this shit. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? And then I had to separate from it. But it is those moments, and yours is bigger than mine because it was life-threatening, but it is those
I hate it when you say that. It's not bigger, you know. It's like, yeah, and it's not just you. I've had so many people on the podcast who are always like, oh, yours is this and that, you're more. I'm like, I don't feel that way, you know. Like I'm pretty content with my life. It's just a matter of perspective. I'm not trying to put it above anyone's either, you know. I think it's that we're all just kind of going through the same thing, and I think that I think that we're all I think what's cool about it is actually the fact of going through similar decisions regardless of different backgrounds, and then having that sort of common ground and that mutual respect, you know. And I think that's actually what makes it special, you know. And I think that's
why I brought it up. You have on one side, you have yours crazy extreme, but I also think that my smaller version also it's a different thing. But if you and I can get somebody to listen to this and be like, okay, it doesn't have to be this small, but it also doesn't have to be this big, to actually start thinking for yourself, then, well, yay us. We did something. So I think it's good to have both sides. It doesn't have to be a small step, but it doesn't have to be a life-threatening step to make those small decisions that can be of a very big effect. So yeah, I'm kind of joking, like, your story is better than mine, but I think it's also okay to have both sides of the spectrum, kind of.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, that I think that we're all kind of going through our own version of the simulation. We all have our own roles to play, and I think that what's important is that is again, you know, finding that common ground, finding that mutual ground, you know, because there's a lot of people, you know, you want to talk about it. There's a lot of people over in Iran who lived far worse lives than I did when I was there, because at the end I was actually, you know, my family, at least at the time that I was in Iran, they did okay, you know. I had a fairly comfortable life, but you know, sometimes having a comfortable life means that you get to see things a little bit more clearly for what they are, in the sense that cultural restrictions, I think, have a much bigger impact on you. But if you're struggling and starving every single day, you don't have time to think about cultural problems, right? But whereas when that's covered, you've got a ceiling above your head. You're kind of like, hang on a minute. This is kind of fucked up what the government are doing to the women in my country. Why do 9-10-year-old girls have to cover themselves in black cloth, even if they go to the sea and they just want to swim and they just want to be kids and they just want to be free? Just because some fucking perverted, sexualized fucking bullshit ideology that doesn't even belong to my land came here, and then you start to have those kind of questions, and then it's like, okay, I think we have a problem here, but you know, that's why it's the situation with the carrot and the stick. You know, that's why. You know, I think if I was a Chinese person, for example, I would want to destroy that government. But you can't, because they've got a monopoly over everything. And the thing we ought to be careful for is our world over here turning into what they've got there, because it's basically modern slavery. Not basically, it is literally modern slavery. We have more slavery in today's world than we have ever done in the history of humans in the past. And I know that might seem controversial, but it's actually the truth. And just statistically speaking, actually. And
yeah. But and I had a thing, but now it went away, and it got pointless. Now you took it to modern slavery.
Sure. No, but just
I know what you mean.
Yeah. But obviously, you know, as you can see, it's something that I'm very passionate about. And I think my thing is that I just don't fucking tolerate bullshit. And bullshit to me is being told what to do, being told how to live. You know, I'm problematic and stubborn in the sense that even if I come to the same answer, I have to find that answer for myself. I won't listen to anyone, you know, and this is how I've always been.
Everybody should. Yeah, but that's how everybody should do. You should never just be like, oh, that sounds right. You know, you get also like make your own mind, do your own research on anything. And like, just because I say that you shouldn't be religious doesn't mean that you can't be religious. You do whatever you feel is right, you know, and it comes to everything. Like, make up your own mind. And if you strongly believe in something, then fucking go for it. But as long as you don't pull it over anyone's head or hurt anyone on the way, then you know, then free game.
But you
say
know
what you want, believe what you want, do what you want.
Absolutely. And you know what, I have always believed that, but at the moment I'm on the precipice of actually questioning if it's possible to do something or believe in anything that's not going to harm or at least affect other people. Because the more I've, you know, like and this is a recent thought process, but I don't know if it's entirely possible to do that, you know, because when you think about it very literally, you know, like on the surface, it's like, well, if I want to worship my God, if I want to believe in what I want to believe in, then choose not to hurt or harm anyone else in the process, that seems like the ideal, right? That seems like the way to go about it. Sure. That's what we both mean when we say not hurting other people and not affecting. Yeah. There's a part of me that I think when you look at the structure of the matrix of the world, there's never any one perfect thing. There's always trade-offs, okay? And I don't think you get to live on this planet and you get to interact with life without having an effect on other people. Whether you like it or not, you're going to have an impact, okay?
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for example, your impact is you've got long-standing pieces of artwork on hundreds, probably thousands of people, I would imagine. And, you know, and that's an effect that you have had on other people. Now think of how many conversations might have happened because of some of those tattoos that you did on other people's, or conversations that maybe you had as a result of it. And I think it's impossible to live. But what's that, sorry?
But have they been harmful?
Well, that's great. Then I think what that question becomes is, and this is more of a philosophical thing, and I this is why I like going down this thread, is that, well, what is harmful? Okay, to what extent? So the harmful becomes a matter of a degree rather than just right or wrong. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. And that's why I think that you can't live in this life without having an effect.
Yeah, but yes, and I understand that point, and of course you can't not hurt anyone's feelings. And
sure.
But that's also like, it depends on how you see it. I'm not going to stand outside a church and tell people that you're an idiot for being a religious fool. I'm not going to do that. I'm doing it here on this because you invited me in and I'm in my house. The same if you go on my Instagram, that's my house, and I say whatever I want on my house. But I'm not going to come to religious people and go to their place and be like, you're an idiot. I would never do that. That's their place. I would never do that. But if you come into my house, I'm free to say whatever I feel. And same if we have a conversation. If you bring up religion to me, be prepared to hear my opinion. And that might be hurtful to some. And the same, I was thinking about it before when you mentioned me tattooing people and having this conversation. And so I was having a client, a they/them client, and I had already known that she had given they had given somebody shit for not accepting this. And I'm like, I totally accept that. I'm like, you can do whatever you want. If you want to identify as a pony, that's fine. It's none of my fucking business. But we're having a conversation with my client, and I'm like, perfectly nice. She brings something up. I have the conversation. I'm like, but for me, you just, and this is just my opinion, for me, you seem more like a girl who just likes to dress up more boyish and be doing things that by society is considered more boyish. But isn't it just a better fight to just do whatever the fuck you want instead of having this confusing between what you want? And to make the long conversation short, in the end, she was actually like, you're absolutely right. And I'm just like, I'm not trying to change her fucking way, but I'm just like, don't give people shit if you haven't thought this through. You can do whatever you want. If you want to be a they, them, I don't care. It's not my problem. Why would I care? Same with any of these discussions. Why would I care if you're gay? Why would I care if you're into fucking humping wooden chairs? It's not my problem. Why would I care? Why would I care what gender you choose to be? I don't have a problem with it. But if you give me shit for not knowing exactly what you identify as just by looking at you, then it's not my fault. Are we all going to have name tags with our genders on? Like, why are you making it hard? We're trying to support you here. I'm trying to lift you up. You can do whatever you want. Why are you making it hard on yourself and everybody else? You know? So yeah, conversation. And maybe it was harmful, and in the end of the day, we both hugged and we had a good time and we were agreeing that this was a very good conversation. But it takes, you need to step out of that comfort zone and just have this, but in a real respectful way, have uncomfortable conversations sometimes. I don't think in the end it was hurtful, but it could have been.
That's actually, this is such a healthy way of thinking. I wish more people kind of looked at it like that, and I think that you ought to have enough confidence and enough sort of strength in who you believe you are, that someone's misconception of that shouldn't be too much of an inconvenience for you that separates you from yourself. We'll make an example. I was born and raised in Iran. I know I'm an Iranian. Obviously a lot of us Iranians identify as Persians. That's kind of that's what we call ourselves because it's the old Persian Empire, and Iran's a name that was given to us much later. If someone came up to me and, I don't know, as an insult said, "Oh, you're Pakistani or you're Indian or something," I would just fucking laugh. I'd be like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, what are you talking about? I wouldn't take that to heart and then want to get that person fired from their job, you know. And listen, I understand. Or if someone called me a woman, I'd be like, yeah, no problem. Here's proof that I'm not, you know. And
whatever.
It's like, you know, but and I get it, you know. That's easier for me to say that than someone who's obviously clearly struggling with their sense of identity. I get that.
There's those people too, and they should be respected. I'm just saying that there are certain people who make it even harder for the actual people suffering from these things.
I'm getting to it because you also know that I'm not super tolerant on bullshit, as we've already discussed, you know, and I think that, you know, if that's what you believe in, if you let's say, for example, if you're a woman and you believe that you're a man, and you really believe that, no problem.
Yeah.
It's not the rest of the world's job to accommodate that thought that you have. You should feel, if you really feel like that's what you are, you should feel enough comfort, even if you're the only person in the world who thinks that. Now, I understand that this might be uncomfortable. Everyone's like, oh, what are you talking about? You can't do that. We need to support these people. No, support yourself, okay?
No one else supporting them.
Yeah, and we are support. This is the problem as well. You know, it's kind of like once they take a little bit, then they got to take more. Then they got to take more. Then they take more. And then if you try and take any of it back, they're like, no, what are you doing? You bigot. How dare you? And it's like, listen, no one took my fucking hand through life and then said, oh, I'll protect you from everything and everyone else and everyone's opinions, even if they don't align with the truth, or maybe if they do align with the truth and they're just simply harmful opinions. No, that's not how life works. Don't be fucking doing that to people. Do you realize how much worse you're making that person's life experience by telling them, oh, you're beautiful just the way you are? Do you realize how much more you're fucking them up by telling them that? That advice has not worked for any person in the history of humankind. That only fucks things up even more, because that's not what life is made of. Life is made of difficulties and uncomfortable opinions. You just gotta find your way of dealing with it, and I'll try my best to be respectful to people, but it should never be an expectation to be that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it's just like, if you want me to help your cause, then don't make it harder for us. I mean, we see the same with you know, since I'm down the path of being canceled anyway, you know, you see it with Antifa people as well, right? For me, like, being a racist is almost as stupid as being religious, because I'm like, why would I hate somebody for the color of their skin? That's the most stupid thing. Why would I do that? That's ridiculous. We can talk about cultural stuff and all that, but that's culture. That's not a racist thing. So, like, I'm clearly against racism. That's fucking stupid. But there are certain things you can't say, and then Antifa is going to come and cancel you. I'm like, no, I'm on your same side. I'm trying to do your thing too, but now you're just canceling left and right stuff that is actually trying to help and being like getting rid of these things. But instead of focusing on the actual problem, you're fighting all these small, easy targets instead. And you get the little, victory, we can fucking do this. Like, it's counterproductive, and that's what I hate about it. Like, if you want to fight racism, if you want to fight fascism, then stop being a fascist for one, and then actually go for the real fucking deal, the real problems. Why don't you go fucking demonstrate outside the politician's house? Why don't you go fight some fucking Nazis? Why do you go and hunt down these people and this people, and just because they once had a meeting with a guy who had a cousin who once went to a concert with a band that had a singer that in his teenage years were friends with a guy who said something bad. It's counterproductive.
It's so true. I'm laughing because it's so accurate, man. And you know what's, you know, obviously I'm laughing because, but actually at the core of it is a very bitter truth, this. And the thing is that I feel sorry for people who get involved with the whole Antifa woke thing, because I think some of them are smart and some of them realize what they've gotten themselves into, but it's a cult. Look at it like this. if you got a group of friends who make you feel like you have to look over your shoulders every time you make a life decision, you're not in a group of friends, you're in a fucking cult. And that's exactly what, unfortunately, this whole Antifa thing is like. You're constantly looking over your shoulders. But, you know, to also play the devil's advocate, it's the same for actual racists as well, you know, actual Nazis that are connected online. Some of them, they don't dare share a song from like a really left-wing band that they like because they're afraid what the rest of the herd is going to say about them, or that they might be ostracized. You're in a fucking cult. Yeah. And I think that, you know, it's a cult at the end of the day, and you know, it's a lot like the religious way of thinking, and I think that you ought to be able to think and do as you wish if you know for what you're saying and for what you're standing for to be true, rather than just pandering to your friends. I think that if you have real friends, you will have no problem standing up to them. You will have no problem saying to them, hey, don't criticize me for cooperating with this band, or don't criticize me for going on or I don't know, following so-and-so person on Instagram. You know, that's what they do now. They go and look at who you're following on Instagram, and then they get offended about that. You know, it's like,
it's
hey.
Childish.
Yeah. It's like,
and it's immature, and it's childish, and it's ridiculous. That's what I mean. And it's a bully mentality. Like, what if you want to change shit, go for the real deal. Why are you focusing on who's following who on Instagram? Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. The two extremes, it sounds very much the same.
Yeah, they're identical, actually. Yeah, which is the ironic thing. You know, I had Kyle Nas Alchemist from Aklis on the podcast when we were at Beyond the Gates. And he said that as a part of our conversation. He was like, these people, they become the thing that they hate. And as a result, they also eat their own. And I think that's 100% accurate. And that's a factual thing. And they do that. And the ironic thing of it all, and I've said this before on here, but I lived in the Islamic Republic. I know what it's like to be in that society that hangs gay people and throws them off rooftops and oppresses women in such ways, and you know, and it's just all around corrupt and fucking cruel. And also, I've experienced and I've seen firsthand what it's like when they come down and close underground metal shows, because that's just what they do. It's haram. You're not supposed to be playing devil's music anywhere, even though people are just playing Metallica covers. Mm-hmm. The behavior of Antifa is identical to the culture police in the Islamic Republic. And I have a feeling this irony is lost on them completely. But I hope that somewhere along the line, maybe they realize, oh, maybe how we're acting here is a little bit like those guys. That's kind of the thing that we're fighting, you know. And again, Antifa, you'll never see them criticizing Islam anyway, which is again kind of ironic. But anyway, that's a thing of its own, man. I don't know. I'm not trying to make any enemies here, you know. I just hope that people really look in the mirror. And maybe they're not being as much of a hero as they think they are, you know. And I'm not saying that they, I'm not saying they're not capable of being a hero, but just take a fucking good look, for God's sake, will you? Take a good look before making this your entire identity.
They have a good, the idea is good. Yeah, fuck fascists, fuck Nazis, fuck
sounds
racists.
Good.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm agreeing with all this. It's just that if you treat this problem by being what you're fighting, then what's the point?
Exactly.
So yeah,
there we go.
But I actually used to be like a extreme left when I was a teenager, and left it all behind, political, the whole organization, because I was like, you guys are fucking idiots. You don't think for yourself anymore. You know, I was always in the opinion, like in Denmark, the Nazis, the neo-Nazis, they had a radio station.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's like a local radio station. In Denmark, there's a racist law as well. So you're not allowed to be like, you can't sit on your little radio station and be like, go out and kill them all. You're not allowed to actually encourage violence or whatever. So it was, I'm guessing it was very harmless. In my opinion, even though I hated the Nazis, we were out demonstrating against them and fighting the police and all that shit. But my opinion was still like, yeah, but they have to be allowed to have their stupid radio station. Or else, how are we fighting freedom of speech if they can't have a radio station? Who's to say that we are going to be next that we can't have a radio station? Like, let them have the radio station. There's a law saying that they can't encourage violence. Then what's the problem? They have a fucking radio station where they can sit and spew their bullshit and let everybody hear how fucking stupid they are. I mean, there was much intelligence coming out of that radio station, I'm sure. So, but you need to let them have it, because or else we don't have freedom of speech. What's next? You're not allowed to listen to satanic music because we believe in Jesus in this country. You know what I mean? Like, and the same with you growing up. Like, you're not allowed to have a concert because that's against our gods. I mean, that's freedom of fucking speech against but it has to be equal for everyone. You can't be like, these guys are not allowed, but these guys are, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
But you can have ground rules that be like, yeah, but don't be a fucking asshole. Don't go out and encourage stupid violence or whatever. Like, that's something that everybody can be like, yeah, okay, fair enough.
But even then, I think that violence, if mutually agreed, is absolutely fine. So let's say if a bunch of Antifas actually set a meeting point with a bunch of Nazis, and let's say, let's go meet here and let's have it out. Yeah. I totally support that. I 100% support that. But the fact of the matter is, they're not brave enough to do that. And that's what makes it toxic and problematic. I think it's because they can't have it out. So it just creates, it perpetuates the toxicity of it.
Yeah, but at least they used to do it in demonstrations, you know. And again, let the fucking stupid Nazis do their marching through the streets. Let us see who they are. But then we're also allowed to demonstrate against them. You know what I mean? You can't say you can't protest, but you can't say that we're not allowed to protest against you.
Well, this is the thing that I've realized, and this is, I'm loving this, by the way. This is great. The thing that I realized is that things that become a victim become invincible to criticism. Okay?
Yeah.
And I think that we ought to come out of that, because, you know, if you're going to say a certain group of people are a victim forever, Muslims are always victim, then they become invincible. Then you don't get to criticize them anymore, because if you criticize Islam, then you're racist somehow, which just doesn't make sense at all.
Sounds very familiar.
And on the other hand, if you keep censoring real extremist shit, you're going to make them look like the victims eventually, which is happening, by the way. There's now a real rise in that, and we're going to be in serious fucking trouble in the West in the next 5 or 6 years. And there's a very clear reason for that. Part of it is the censorship. Part of it is the forced, I guess, you know, just mixing people together who don't really necessarily belong in the same place and aren't willing to cooperate. If you had people who kind of merged together culturally, and then they kind of, you know, had a bit of an exchange, intertwined together, then that's no problem. But otherwise, you just end up with basically gangs of humans, and that Europe right now is made of gangs of people. And by that, I don't mean like criminal gangs, but the fact that everyone is only sticking to their own because that's just how it's gone. Unfortunately, not enough effort has been made to really work on integration, okay? And this is something that takes time, and the fast-paced scenario that we've kind of had post-2017, 18, and so on, that's made that very difficult, okay? So there's not enough actual integration, but a lot of just throwing a bunch of people who don't get along, who don't culturally, who aren't culturally compatible in the same place, I think is a disastrous fucking idea. And I do really think that if we are able to just allow, like you said, allow people to say what they want to say and then let them look stupid. Let them look stupid in the process of saying what they're saying. Censoring is not the way to go about it, because when people see these extremist ideas getting censored, then they're like, but what are they trying to hide from me? I better go check that out. And then you go check that out, and then it's like, oh, so he did what? Oh, so they people control. Oh, okay. And then you end up creating more extremist people in the process. So you're actually making your enemy a lot stronger by censoring them constantly.
Don't make them martyrs.
Absolutely. And this, I hope people over here in the West realize this before it's too late. That you can't silence your enemy and expect it to go away.
The pendulum is swinging, and hopefully at some point will come back, or it will land in the middle, And yeah, actually what you're saying, I keep thinking about, it's the same in Germany, and the whole censoring thing. But in Germany, it's illegal to use Nazi symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not allowed to use the swastika. You're allowed to use the SS, stuff like that. Which, but you're not getting rid of Nazis. You just make them feel
right.
Not allowed to use a symbol. You still have neo-Nazis. You don't get rid of it just by taking away their symbols. But it's
good point. Yeah.
You're just making it worse. You're just giving them more power now, and it's then maybe you don't know that they're Nazis. They just look like something else. But let them fucking wear the swastika. Let them go and see cars, so we all know who the fuck they are. Let it be clear how fucking stupid they are. Let them show it. So we
yeah. Because that's the thing. You think at first it's because you do think of a situation where they can freely just put swastikas everywhere, but here in the UK, I see people, and that, by the way, it's actually kind of a weird thought when you think of oh, would they do that? But then I feel like it would kind of die off eventually. I think maybe that's probably what would happen. But, you're saying that's illegal. Here in the UK, you see posters, communist posters everywhere. It's hey, comrade, do you want to, support the cause? Join us here. And then there's a bunch of links, and it's fucking everywhere. And, there's posters of Karl Marx everywhere. It's you may as well have posters of Hitler if that's what you're doing. But very strangely enough, they don't seem to see that, which I think is fucking bizarre. It's scary. One thing, we were with our friends in Norway, and I saw this thing, and she was she was quite overweight, but then she was wearing a Che Guevara shirt, and I was you wouldn't get to be overweight in a communist fucking country. So your entire existence here is a paradox.
Yeah, but that's also it's a whole misunderstanding about the communism, right? The idea is great. It just doesn't fucking work.
It doesn't work. It doesn't fucking work with humans.
Show.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. Everybody's equal. Share with everybody. Yeah, it sounds great, but that's not how it works. And it has never been how it works. And look at the communist countries. It's the rich are this rich and the poor is this poor. It doesn't fucking work.
Yeah, I always say, listen, if you think it's so good, go live in one of those countries. Leave here. You don't fucking like it, get the fuck out. Go live in a country where it's more compatible with the ideology that you're following. Don't fucking tamper with things here.
Yeah, but it's also this, everything has to be so extreme.
Yeah.
And it's when you talk to an American about socialist values or whatever, I'm Danish. We have a very nice and socialist system, and it works really well. But if you tell it to an American, you're oh, it's communist. No, it's not. It's not that fucking stupid. Come on.
But it's the thing is it's
it's not. I mean, it does not work. It's
No.
either you're a beggar on the street or you have like two fucking big, huge cars. And back to what you were saying something earlier with the whole like being comfortable and how it makes you think, but it also does the opposite. So I see my friends from China, and they're comfortable. They know the system is fucked. They know this communist idea does not work, but they're so comfortable that it's just like la 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 la. And, you know, like I had a friend who used to live in China, and he would do these comics, which was you know, questioning the whole Chinese government shit, and they were very uncomfortable because that threatened their livelihood.
Yeah.
So it's more comfortable for them to be like, they know he's right. They know the government is shit. And just like a lot of other extremists, they bend the rules to their liking where it fits into their thing, you know? Like, they're not communists, but they like the system because it makes them it allows them to have a very nice life, you know?
To become overlords, yeah. It's funny, everything you just described there is exactly what it's like in Iran too. Everyone hates the fucking government.
Either you start questioning because you're comfortable, or you go the other way and be like, no, I'm very comfortable. I'm not going to question anything.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I think that, you know, the thing that then tears down that wall is free speech, ultimately.
Free speech, always.
Yeah. And it'll come at a price.
We can speak our mind. You have a podcast. I can sit here and talk shit to you.
Yeah.
And, you know, luckily we still have the right to do this. Like,
luckily so.
And hopefully people will not cancel us for the shit that we talk about, you know?
Well, this is the thing, man, you know, it's year 2030, you're sat there in your tattoo studio, and then the electricity of your building goes off because someone discovers this podcast. So, yeah, or your electric car switches itself off.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, listen, man, I think this has been really good, you know, and I think that's a good sort of like last lesson to take away from it, you know, so we can probably kind of wrap this up. But this has been a fucking blast, man. You know, I knew I wanted to get you on, and I always know deep down, you know, like I want to talk to people that, you know, we can at least go to these places, you know, but I think that was fucking great, man. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, you know, and obliging. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me talk shit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I hope it won't get you in too much trouble, but I think you'll be fine. You will notice that people who are looking to cause trouble don't actually have the attention span to listen past the 3-minute mark, so we're all good.
Yeah, true.
I've jinxed it now. But that's awesome, man. You know, and again, you know, I think discourse is necessary in today's world. And, you know, doesn't mean that everyone has to agree, but I think it's necessary to have it, you know, and, you know, maybe someone will make a comment that make me think, oh, yeah, shit, they're right about that, you know, or someone will agree and think, oh, you know what, I never looked at it this way until you guys did this. And that's exactly the reason why I do this podcast, you know, is to allow for discourse, because I think it's necessary. And I think it's especially necessary in the extreme metal scene because, for a scene that prides itself on free thinking, we way too often go along just to get along. And I'm hoping to fix that a little bit, you know?
Yeah, but not to keep your podcast going here, but I'm totally agreeing. Like, what's the point of just talking with people you 100% agree with, so we can pat each other on the back and be like, oh yeah, we totally agree on everything. No, you need to push a little bit and be like, okay, this is my opinion. What's your opinion? And then, like Absolutely. You say, maybe you learn something from somebody who has a different opinion, and it's important, and that's why we need to be able to freely have discussions about stuff that is not always comfortable, and people need to be okay and ready to have an uncomfortable conversation without the fear of being canceled or attacked or, you know, harmed. You know, it's just conversation.
Absolutely, man. I 100% agree. Yes, totally my fucking pleasure. Maybe let's do a round 2 sometime, eh?
Anytime. I'm ready.
Fuck yeah, man. Is there any way you would like people to come and check out any of your work, or anything you've got coming up that you'd like people to keep an eye out for at all?
No, I mean, I have 500 Instagrams that they can follow. I'm really bad at making websites that, never ends up being anything. But yeah, all my Instagrams, both for tattooing and several different photo profiles, and where people can contact me if they want to do something, or get tattooed or get photographed. I don't know.
Yeah, perfect, man. All of those will be linked.
I have 500 projects all the time.
Yes.
I have books in the making. I have merch, prints, anything. But keep an eye on it.
There we go. Yeah, I'll link all of them in the description so people can just go follow you on there. And Allan, I much appreciated, brother. Thank you so much for your time. And to everyone else listening as well, thank you guys for joining us on this episode of Iblis Manifestations. And fuck yeah, we'll see you on the next one.